Today's Imbali Live guest was named Kulani Murule. You might know him as Don Kuliaro. You might know him as the Motswako originator. Please put your hands together for Khuli Chana. Oh, standing ovation even. Hi, Khuli.
What's up?
Thank you for joining us today. How you doing?
You know, it's always a pleasure hanging out with you.
Hey, cosign.
Yeah.
So I've explained to everybody, you understand how we're gonna work today, right? Thanks. So in this first segment, we're gonna be talking about your childhood. We're gonna be talking about Morafe, all the way up to your debut album. So before we get to the debut album, let's talk a little bit about how you grew up. So you grew up in what used to be known as Bophuthatswana, right?
Yeah.
So what was your childhood like?
Bophuthatswana was like, I grew up in a neighborhood called Unit 2. And next door, we had a colored family, the Satsins. Right across, we had an Indian family. It was pretty mixed. I grew up with a kid by the name of Sean Cushman. That's where I got my English from, you know.
His name was Sean Cushman.
Yeah, Sean Cushman. So back then, you know, there was a lot of, internationals who came to Bophuthatswana to either teach, doctors, and you know what I mean. And you know, it wasn't like I didn't grow up in a suburb, but it was a semi-burb because it was multiracial. Yeah. And yeah, man, I had a great, you know, childhood raised by my grandmom and my mom, and yeah, only dude in the family,
in the house. Yeah.
Surrounded by women. And yeah, I was a bit of a weirdo, scrawny, dark. Ladies like kid. But, you know, and yeah, man, it was fun, you know. My neighbor, the Mokhotsi family, was also like my teacher, who's a mom to Outre L Skills, who's like a pioneer of Motswako. These are the guys that came up. They came from a group called Crowded Crew. I mean, that's like way back. And that's where I got the music influence from. He's also a little brother to Sekhale Mokhotsi, who was on Radio Metro, Radio Bop. And what was weird about, you know, my childhood is like my family wasn't really big on music at all.
So what did you do for fun? Like, if there's no music in the house, what are you guys doing?
You know, I grew up with KG. So me and KGism have been friends since I was maybe like 10.
Yeah.
But I don't remember being introduced to KG. I think he gate crashed my party. he gate crashed my birthday party, and we became very close. And KG had a very wild imagination growing up. So we used to just like, we used to do some weird stuff. You know, you imagine Star Trek, or we would play cop chasing and defraud or whatever. But you know, we had a lot of fun. But I think when it became interesting is when me and KG started, like when we discovered how to record ourselves on like a hi-fi, and we just do some random acapellas, some weird stuff. KG could sing from a very early age. Yeah. And that used to blow my mind. Yeah.
So Crowded Crew members are living a stone's throw away from your house.
Yeah, literally next door. We didn't even have a fence.
Yeah. So are you looking at them thinking, I'd like to do that one day? Or what's in your mind? Like, I'm going to grow up and be what?
You know, like, I mean, before we even got to that, I mean, that whole family is 3 brothers. It's Outre, it's Erwin, it's Outre Mokhotsi. Outre at the time is already on Radio Bop. So he's like the coolest guy. So imagine, right? Every day we'd have like Bob Mabana show up at the crib.
Damn.
Melanie's son. Melanie was probably like 17, 18. She was blazing hot, Glenn Lewis. Back then, we all thought Glenn Lewis was from America. I thought the guy was from, and all these celebrities used to pull up. So I used to go hang out there because they used to play a lot of music. And I remember first hip hop record I ever heard was Vanilla Ice.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they used to play a lot of house.
Is it Ice
music.
Ice Baby?
Ice Baby, yeah. And I used to just marvel at them, and I'd watch them fight over records or over like, yo, it's my turn to play, that sort of a thing.
Yeah.
And that's where, I think that's the moment I fell in love with music.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So at what point do you and KG become Jazzadaz? Am I even saying it correctly?
Yeah, Jazzadaz. So, when L Skills, when they released their first record, that's when we realized that this thing is real. And this is like 96 maybe. Yeah, this is when they used to put out cassettes. And we were just blown by it. Jeez, we didn't know you could take it that far, right? And then me and KG, started writing. Well, just a lot of like, we all just started kind of mimicking whoever was hot at the time.
Yeah.
So you learn by, how to rap like Queen Latifah or Nas, or just learn their lyrics, and and for me, it started in high school, in primary school. That was the only way I could get attention. You know what I mean? I wasn't like the coolest kid, but the fact that I could rap, it was just like, damn, how do you do that? And so me and KG was like, yo, let's start a rap group. Actually, my neighbor Alvin, he started, but he was also very crazy about the idea of rapping. He actually put us together. So we started out, it was 3 guys. Alvin was whack. And, the whole time we were just trying to figure out how we're going to kick this guy out the crew. But, he had the master plan. Like, we got our first show through him. He was the plug. So we couldn't get rid of this guy. And I remember I couldn't write for shit. Like, I couldn't, but I could flow. So real talk, KG came up with my first rhyme. I don't remember it.
So he was ghostwriting for you. At what age? At like what, 10, 11?
Like maybe 12.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So he would write scripts and go, yo, go learn this. And I, would link up the following day, and I'll spit the verse. He'll go, yo, okay, you sound nice. Okay,
Can you
cool.
remember the one that you liked? Like spit one. Please don't bump your drink, but like.
Let's have a little sip.
And please don't put it on Brahu. Oh, there's a coaster. Woo! Thank you, Jesus.
Yeah.
So the first rhyme that you liked as Jazzadaz.
As jazz it is. It went something like, I remember it was a hook. It was a bit cheesy. Something like, I could bring this flavor to yo. Is that so? Make you move to and fro. Is that so? Niggas I took a toe.
Is that so?
What is it? Hell yeah, I'm the wickedest. Yeah, it was something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do we like that? Are we?
It could still work.
No?
It could still work in this era. Yeah.
So when you hear "Is That So" on the next album, just know where it comes from. Okay, so you're about 12 years old. You started this group with KG and someone else that you want to kick out.
Yeah, we started this group with Elvin,
Yeah.
myself, and KG.
Where did you get Jazzadaz from?
Jazzadaz came actually after we managed to kick Elvin out the crew. So, so Jazzadaz was, a lot of it was inspired by, I'm just trying to remember, but like, I think KG came up with that name. We thought it was cool. And this is around about the time, I think it's the era of hip hop where, they used to fuse a lot of jazz. I think Gangstar did it. Even Jay-Z did it.
Yeah.
And I don't know. We just thought it was a cool name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's got nothing to do with hazardous.
Hazardous, yeah. But Jazzadaz.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cute, man.
Yeah.
Okay, so at what point do you then meet Todi and Momulimi?
Yeah, very interesting. So KG and Todi went to primary school together. They were like best buddies in primary school. Todi and Mulimi are my family. right? But I was more closer to Mulimi.
Your family, how? As in, like, they're your cousins?
As in cousin, yeah.
Okay.
So Todi and Mulimi are first cousins. Like,
Okay.
their mothers are siblings, right?
Okay.
And me and Todi and KG, what's this Mulimi? That's our grandparents. But we're very close. Kibomurule, right?
Yeah.
And Todi was very influential in the hip hop scene growing up, right? And this is like in our teens. So he started a group called Dramatics. Dramatics.
Okay.
Right? And these guys were like, when I look at Bram right now, these guys were like Bram. Like
they were
personified.
before
Skr before skr. Yeah. And it was unheard of because this is at a time when white was huge, and you just see these guys that roll squat deep with like baggy pants and like, Doc Martens, and they just look super cool. And me and KG were like, we gotta step our game up, And I remember around in the mid-90s, there was a rap competition, right? And me and KG got into that. We came out like third. They came out first, but a buzz started growing, in Mafikeng about me and KG.
Yeah.
Mulimi reached out and he was like, "Listen, we heard that you and Khuli are killing it, and we would like to join forces."
So Mulimi was in the Dramatics.
No. So Mulimi was part of. So Dramatics was like, I don't know if you've heard of what's it called again? Goody Mob and Outcast, and them.
So
had
they were
like
a collective.
Family. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's like Wu-Tang, and you got some solo careers over here. You've got groups, and that sort of a thing. So they were like a whole movement, and so Mulimi, that was Mulimi's vision. So he reached out and he was like, "Listen, I think we should start a group together." And these guys were like, it was crazy because when Todi and Mulimi were doing their thing, they were both in boarding school. So they used to literally come up with songs over the phone and get together in the holiday season and like rehearse together. And we started learning how to work like that. So Todi would call me, I'm talking payphone, cut phone days.
Yeah.
Yo, listen to this hook. What do you think? Okay, cool. Write to this. And at the time, that's when you would buy singles and rip the instrumental. Every single will come out with. Yeah.
Do you guys remember those days?
Yeah.
When a single had like instrumentals and a cappella? Oh my God.
Yeah, nobody made beats at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. However, there was only one guy who made beats. He goes by the name Tasman.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was the only dude. We'll get to that. So, so we got together and we started making music together, and he came up with the name Ill Tribe. So we used to go by the name Ill Tribe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what were some of the songs that you were making as Ill Tribe about?
It was a bunch of stuff. It was, back then all we could rap about was girls. That's all. That's all we ever wanted was girls and partying, and it was nothing really deep, It was I'm the best.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we recorded a lot of demos, and that was the fun part, Gobo Todi that had this fan, would hang the mic over the fan, and then one pushes the record button over there, roll tape, and three guys around one mic rapping, and that was fun. I really miss those days.
Yeah. And this was end of high school.
Yeah, this is like towards end of high school.
So at this point, are you thinking, I want to be a rapper for a living?
No.
What are you thinking?
I'm thinking, this is fun. This is a lot of fun. I wanted to go into advertising.
Oh.
I wanted to go into advertising. Generations was huge at the time. I wanted to work for New Horizons.
You wanted to be with Achi Moroka?
I wanted to work in Achi Moroka's office.
Yeah. So did you ever study after high school?
Damn, that's when reality hits. When the folks go, I want to chill it. You go, what the fuck?
Yeah.
What do you mean? And it was not really that there was no money to take me to school. It was just they couldn't afford to take me to the school that I wanted. I remember triple A was like my dream at the time. Yeah.
It was mine too.
Yeah. Triple A was like
Couldn't
the
go.
coolest ever. Yeah. Yeah. You know?
Yeah. So speaking of your parents, then one of the things I love about your music is you always give us these glimpses into your life, right? So like on Here We Stand, you talk about how Hagopala, Mama told me to try harder. Why,
Yeah.
Mama?
Yeah.
Why Letimer has no faith in me?
Yeah.
Can you break down what you were referring to when you wrote those lyrics? Like, what did your dad have no faith in? Like, what were you
Yeah.
questioning your mom about?
You know, my mom, and I mean, till to this day, my mom really believes in me. Like my mom is like my biggest fan. You know what I mean? I mean, every year I actually want to retire. Every year I'm like, this is it. This is the day we put out the announcement.
Yeah.
And the only person that's always pulled me, back and has managed to convince me to keep going is my mom. Right. I remember when I was maybe around 11 to 12, maybe even younger. She suggested that I joined like a gymnastics club. So I was a flipper before the rap stuff.
Yeah.
And, maybe that's why my rap style was always complicated because, I learned how to flip and that was my life for a long time. So
where are these pictures? I think we need to see.
I hope we don't find any of these pictures with them leotards and I don't have any, and I don't want to see them. And so so that was my thing, and I think she was just trying to build this confidence. And when I actually started writing, she had a rule, like, listen, you can stay up on condition that you're doing this thing. So sometimes I'll catch her over just peeping.
Yeah.
It was awkward for her. She didn't know what to make out of it, but she was super chuffed that I'm like passionate about something.
Yeah.
So when my pops found out about my, the music thing, it was just like, I've never seen this guy so disappointed. It was like, what?
Yeah.
For what? Go study. You know what I'm saying? It was like, I've never seen anybody that turned off about the idea of going into music.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Were you able to show him how successful you are? Like, is he still around?
Me and Pop haven't had a conversation over maybe 15 years now.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's a weird one.
Yeah.
But and I guess, some of you can relate, and so I was raised by a single mom and for the longest, and then my pop showed up out of nowhere. I think they just started dating again.
Yeah.
And then they split up. And then, so it was like, our relationship was a bit conditional. It was like, on condition, I'm still with your mom.
Yeah.
We'll do this thing, So, but me and Pop, we just never hit it off, And I think 98, we went on this vacation to Zim, and it was just bad. We just never clicked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then, I don't know how to get a segue back to the music because now that's just become morbid.
Yeah.
But Ill Tribe.
Yeah.
Does that get absolved into what then became Morafe?
Yeah.
How?
We went through a bit of a conversion. So we meet Jabba. Jabba went to primary school with Mulimi. Yeah, Jabba was actually my senior in primary school. And Jabba had just dropped Introduction. And that's when the whole Motswako thing was starting to become commercialized, right?
Yeah.
Yes, Mafikeng came before Jabba and they blew up. But, Jabba was bringing in a whole new dynamic, a whole new style to this whole thing, right? That I remember a time when Motswako had like one type of delivery,
Yeah.
And Jabba was sounding like Biggie on Gastwana. So I was like, oh, this is cool. We run into Jabba at some party. There used to be a dude in our neighborhood called Tyro. He threw all the dopest parties, house parties. We run into him. He's just dropped this album. We're excited. And then we had a cypher. And Jabba was like, we have to start a group together. He had this vision to build a Morafe, a a Mouthtown crew that had Stone, KB Mutsile
Yeah.
Nyame, you know, Buffy Chile, and he was gonna call it Morafe. And Prof of Buffy Chile, who's like my big bro, who's the guy who used to bring me tapes, YFM, Rap Activity, Jam tapes, you know.
Yeah.
So he created that bridge for me. So I always knew what was popping in Joburg, yeah, right? And I remember him going, I think you dope, but if you can do it Gastswana, then I'll have mad respect for you. So
Yeah.
you know, rapping Gastswana was like a dare. So I came up with my first verse just for him.
Yeah.
Right? And so we had started, you know, penning some Motswako verses when by the time we ran into Jabba. We had that cipher, and then we started writing some songs together, and we started moving with Jabba, you know. And so when we realized that nobody was coming to the table with this idea of like a movement, we figured, yo, let's flip it. So we'll take the name Morafe, and this is how we're gonna move, and we're gonna start, you know, this Motswako movement. And that's when our music started changing.
Yeah.
You know, and it became more interesting. It actually became a bit more challenging rapping in your own language.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is it true that you guys went off to Botswana to perform somewhere, and then when you came back, you were like, okay, the Morafe name is now ours? Like, what happened in Botswana that switched everything?
Yeah, so, you know, Jabba has a huge fan base in Botswana. Botswana started showing him love before everybody, right? And I can imagine it was tough for Jabba because this is at the peak of Kwaito, you know, so he would open up for all the big acts.
Yeah.
And yeah, so Botswana was just like, you know, with open arms. And yeah, we had our first tour with Jabba in Botswana, and it was just amazing, right? And it's crazy, man, because Jabba was also just like a visionary. It was just his wisdom, and he's just like, he could see into the future. And everything that I've experienced, this stuff that Jabba talked about back then. And somehow he convinced us. And yeah, when we came back, we were like, yo, this is what we're gonna do. You know? Yeah.
So then did Morafe become the four of you, or was it the three?
So it was four. It was Mulimi, myself, Todi, KG.
And then what happened to Mulimi?
Mulimi, you know, just before we dropped the first album, Maruapula, they had some serious family problems, right? So, you know, the farm was, you know, experiencing some financial, you know, difficulties. And he literally quit the music to go save the family farm.
Oh, wow.
Real talk.
Yeah.
And I mean, at the time, we couldn't get it. We couldn't, you know, understand what he was going through. It just kind of felt like, yo, why you ditching the crew, you know, when we're about to blow up. You know, at the time it felt like he had lost interest in it because we had been doing it for so long. I mean, we were those guys in the neighborhood where every year, like, you know, and you know, we thought he got tired of that, but that's how it happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in the early 2000s, you guys moved to Johannesburg. So you leave Mouthtown, you move to Johannesburg. What are those first few months like? Because you haven't made it yet, right? What are those first few months like?
Jabba. So Jabba calls us for a meeting. He's like, listen, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to go shack up with my girl down the road from my flat.
Yeah.
And you guys are going to come live at my spot. Mom doesn't have to know about this. Nobody has to know about this, right? We moved into Jabba's flat. It had this big Bufutatswana flag. So we were just like it felt like an underground, you know. We were like, it was a bit weird, right?
Yeah.
And he had just one small radio, had like a CD player, no TV. And it was dry, but all we had, you know, we had each other. And it gave us time to write a lot of material. Some of the material that you heard on Aene, on Maruapula, some of the material is actually even on Motswako Originator.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was very lonely. I remember the first time we went back home, we were all like super skinny. Our parents didn't even want us to go back because, there was never food, but there was a lot of weed. I don't know why. There's always somebody popping in like, Le Sharp.
Yeah.
So yeah, but that's when I learned how to survive, and right around we were just like next to Rao when it was still Rao.
Yeah.
And we still had a lot of support. We had a support system. We had people that believed that we were going to become really huge, but it was tough. It was really hard to imagine that would become successful.
Yeah.
Real talk.
So it's 2005. You're still a junkie for Kwai.
Ish.
Mad hype, but we still unsigned.
Yeah.
How do you get signed to Ghetto Rough?
Tasso. Man. And what's crazy is that Toady got a job. So eventually we go back to the Northwest, right? So we lived with Jabba for a while. We went back to the Northwest because Toady had found a job at a recording studio.
Yeah.
Afrikaans guy, Barke Emil Brown. And we started recording Maruapula there, right? We recorded that album like 4 or 5 times because the computer kept crashing. We kept losing. We had to walk a crazy distance every day just to get to the studio, right?
Yeah.
Album is done. We present it to Man. He goes, yeah, it's dope, but we're gonna work on a new album. So we start the process all over again. This is round about the time Zola is at his peak. He's huge.
Wait. So why is he saying you need to start a new album? What's wrong with the album you've recorded?
Apparently the quality. Apparently, like a lot of factors. Some of that material was then, put on new beats or whatever. Right. Yeah. But I just wanted to share just how long that process was and how many times we had to start over and over again. And then, so Tasso got a deal with Ghetto Rough. He had a little label, small label called Impact Sounds. He signed us, Morafe, and Dukes.
Yeah.
And that's how we got signed to Ghetto Rough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you were saying Zola's huge at that time, right? And you guys also come in as the group that's next to the Motherland Crunk Boys.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. So how do you guys then navigate that? Because Elias and Bongs and Ishmael and Crazy Lou are doing things. And you guys are signed to what you're saying is this little Impact Sound.
No. So Motherland Crunk came after. So we eventually drop Maruapula.
Yeah.
The whole thing becomes a success. And second album, we then, so we had come up with this idea to have a trilogy. Maruapula, the anticipation. Aine, the revelation. Inele, the celebration, right? So on Aine, the celebration, we then decide we want to go a little deeper. I mean, we went as far as like creating like a coin. So we got the coin and we wanted to create our own sort of logo. We wanted to create our own currency. We were just like smoking a lot as well. So,
but you had food this time. You had food.
Yeah, there was a lot of food and more of that other stuff.
Yeah.
So, and a lot of great material. But I think Lance was also just a bit frustrated. Like, yo, the rain showers and the clouds. Like, people don't want that. The market is gullible. Just give them hits, Yeah. And round about that time, that's when Motherland Crunk is coming in.
Okay.
The Crumpers, that whole thing, 3 Yellow Bones and Ishmael, who's an icon. How you gonna compete with that?
You can't.
How you... And it was like the studio was in Park View.
Yeah.
So amazing spot. So, and Lance spent a lot of time on the other side at the little guy studio. And we was just always feeling like, damn, why does it feel like, he's a bit more attached to these guys and not us? And that's the thing about when you're also signed to like a record label with a huge roster. and you start feeling like, why does it seem like he likes these guys
Yeah.
more? But that wasn't the case. I guess I have to be honest. Bongani was also coming in with something completely fresh.
And 37.
37. Oh,
Yeah.
I ran into 37 yesterday.
Huh?
Yeah. So and these guys are chopping like traditional Zulu, mixing it up with like crunk music. They dancing on stage. They look like they fresh out of a Source magazine cover. You
So
know?
at that point, are you guys going, maybe let's scrap the coin. Maybe let's see what this crunk thing is doing.
No, at the time, so the album is out, but
Yeah.
it's not doing too good.
Yeah.
The album, first single dropped. It was alright. Second single dropped. We've then shot the video for Lekwalo to Motswako. Things started picking up.
Yeah.
But you could feel it at the shows, man. You kind of know at the shows when it's like, are you ready for Morafe? Yay. And it's like, it's not what you're used to. Then
Yeah.
Are you ready for Motherland,
But Josie.
Are you ready for Josie? And it's like, ooh.
Yeah.
And then, it does something to your confidence. And I remember having a conversation with Bongane. We're just done a show, and he's like, yo, listen, man, I was just thinking, how about I take some of the music, chop it up, and let's see. It wasn't a bad idea, but at the time I just felt like, yo, are you really saying what I think you're saying right now? You
Yeah.
know? And yeah, that was a tough time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then how do you guys wind up leaving Ghetto Rough?
So we had a 2-album deal. And I remember one night, and I think it was out of frustration, Toady goes, I think you should go solo. Nobody will ever see that coming. And it was crazy because I was like, that was like my worst fear.
Why?
Because I was the quiet guy in the crew. I was like, go check out all the old interviews.
Yeah.
I was just like an echo. I was just echoing whatever Toady says.
Where did that come from? Were you just like feeling like you are being overshadowed by the other two guys? Like, why weren't you?
I didn't have the confidence to. I think I was still trying to find my own voice if I want to be deep about it. But I wasn't, I wasn't very confident. My confidence was in I can rap. I know I can spit. I come alive as soon as the beat drops. I come alive on stage, but like, I used to shy away from those moments. Like I could never do this back then at all. So, and just the thought of like, oh, damn, are you asking me to do a whole record by myself? I don't know how that's going to work. So it was actually Toadie's vision. And Toadie was like, nah, that's what we're going to do. We're going to sample some of our old joints. And you just come up with 3 verses. Don't worry.
Yeah.
So first joint he came up with was Futumata, where he sampled his verse from the whole thing.
Yeah.
And then I just started growing into it. And I remember Slicker reached out to Toadie, and Toadie was like A&R-ing the whole thing, and gave him Futumata. Then it landed on the Sprite Hip Hop mixtape.
Yeah.
And then I started touring as a solo artist.
And you're performing the song.
Yeah. Toadie went out buying beats, shopping for beats. That's when he got Standwa Sam.
Yeah.
He got this joint titled Let It Roll. And I think Kasiami. And I locked myself into a room. Like sometimes I dim the lights like completely and just rap and just rap and just rap. So by the time I got into the studio, I didn't waste a lot of time, So I could do it one take, and then I just started growing into it. But I could have never done it without Toadie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for you, it was never an option to renegotiate with Ghetto Rough.
Nah, so we realized we had come to the end of that road.
Okay.
We're not selling records. We're not making the record company any money. And we had a really cool relationship with Lance, and Lance was like whatever you want to do, you let me know. You guys want to put out another record, you guys let me know,
Okay.
Lance will support whatever vision you have. Yeah. But Tody was just like super adamant that I have to go solo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then it's clear that Tody had a lot to do with the Motswako originator being what it is, right?
Yeah.
But where did the name come from? Because for somebody who didn't originate Motswako to call themselves the Motswako originator, that's a very bold thing to do.
So, I'm like one of those dudes who just like kind of like to. I'm a big Jay-Z fan. I just can't remember the joint, but I remember there's one joint right at the end of that verse. He goes, the originator. So I used to go Motswako originator. I always find a way to just try slot my name in everything and anything that I think is fly. And that's how I came up with it.
Yeah.
But the reason why I did was like, this is my first album. The title has to be bold, right?
Yeah.
And this is how I want to be remembered. And I thought I was only gonna drop one album and never drop again. So I think when I was on my maybe 6th track, I realized that, I have to drop this album to take one for the boys because we were taking a lot of L's at the time. And that was my reason for doing it. But I did catch a lot of flack from the OGs who felt like, yo, what does this mean? Are you saying you know?
Did they call an intervention for you?
Nah, just little shots here and there, But what's crazy is 10 years later, when I walk down the street, everybody calls me the Motswako originator. It's just like I wanted to coin a term. And I think I started hanging around a lady by the name of Pretty Oliphant who worked at AAA. So I eventually never got to Hukena School Local AAA. But one day what I did was I popped in there and I was like, listen, I'm working on something and I'm looking for anybody who's in brand design to kind of help me structure what I want to do. I want to call the album Motswako originator. So that's when I learned a lot about brand positioning and
That's dope, man.
Yeah, man.
So I'm going to open it up to the floor for questions. Does anybody have questions? Okay, I think we'll start with the young lady over here. And this young lady here with the black. And before we do that, something I've always wondered about is, so when Morafe came out, I remember I used to watch you guys all the time. You guys were performing everywhere, right? And the perception was that you guys were doing well, right? Even if you weren't doing as well as your label counterparts. So how is it that you were winding up sleeping on people's couches while making your debut album? How does that happen?
Oh, geez, man. Life of an artist is tough, yo. And I mean, I think this is when, around about the time when now things have completely dried up. You know what I mean? I'm talking about the bookings are not coming in for Morafe. You know what I mean? We all live separate lives. And I'd started doing some shows, but it wasn't enough for me to get an apartment. So I think that happened around about the time I met PH. And we started working together. But at one point I didn't have a place to stay. So I lived in PH's studio.
Yeah.
For months.
At Raw X.
At Raw X. And it was sad because like the only way you could actually lock up his place was from outside. I know this door was all really pretty messed up. So all I remember when I think about back then is just like how he was always teary-eyed every time he has to open the door for me in the morning. But that was also an amazing time because that's when I wrote that bang verse. Came out of there. A lot of the material that's on Lost in Time, came out of that situation.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about Lost in Time in a bit.
Yeah.
And if you are on the Wi-Fi, there is free Wi-Fi. It's the JNB Hive and the password is Johannesburg with a capital J. Our hashtag is imbali live if you want to tell people everything that you're learning. What is your question, lady?
I just wanted to find out, and maybe if I'm getting ahead, you'll just, jump in. There's this sort of expectation from people bakochai. Expectation, maybe to some extent, an entitlement, where artists, they feel like now because you are this person, therefore they are entitled to maybe I don't know, you helping them out. So I want to find out, how do you balance that out? Because obviously there was a vision, and I'm sure maybe Luena, you're thinking, "Ke batla go thusa batho ba ko gae." So I want to find out, how do you balance out the original intention or the vision that you guys had with what is currently happening right now?
Ooh, that's deep.
Yeah, Jabba put everybody on, put Morafe on. We carried on tradition. First time people heard Dukes was on the Morafe record. First time a lot of people heard Noti was on Twada. You know what I mean? So, and the reason why he put us on was because not only we were dope, but we were also like, we were making things happen. So it's easier to tusam or to tusang, right? But you still find those. You still find bo amfage, So I think for me, it's like anybody who is going to push the envelope, impact culture in a positive way, change the game, is somebody I'm interested in helping out, period. Yeah.
Cool. We've got one more question.
So I just wanted to know, post Morafe, right? Did you ever feel like you needed to reflect on that? Because in many of your sort of Morafe raps, you reflect why mama, all of those things. So I just wanted to know, post Morafe, when you were a solo artist, did you ever feel like, you know what, I need to sort of reflect a bit about my upbringing, your working class, like growing up in the hood and that stuff? Because the expectation she's talking about comes from that Morafe, Motswako, a lot of people saw Motswako as the social movement, not just as a genre where guys, sort of rap or buy Bentleys or fill up stadiums. They felt, oh no, they, so I'm just curious. I'm just sorry. I'm just curious as to, did you ever feel like, yo, man, I need to sort of, say something?
I'll tell you what's been the most challenging thing, right? Is there was a time when Joburg was like America to us. First that was the dream.
Yeah.
We could just make it to Joburg, right? And we got here, and then we became successful. And if you listen to our old tapes, obviously the dialect, the slang, the swagger, the confidence was very Mafikeng. You know what I mean? And we haven't been home in a very long time, and I have to be honest and say, at some point you kind of disconnect. You know what I mean? And I don't know if that kind of answers your question. Yeah, but so and one of the reasons why I thought we could create a Mufftown Heights was to create like a reunion for Mafikeng artists, because we at one point I realized we all live here. I remember going to a party, I think it was Go Harem, and it was like a Ghanaian Independence Day party, and everybody's there and they celebrating, and I'm like, yo, we could do the same thing, because we also grew apart here in Joburg. So that's been the most challenging thing for us, because your material goes from wanting to get out of the hood, and then you're in Joburg and you get to a place where you don't know where to draw from.
And that's a perfect segue into our second section. So now we're going to talk about more solo stuff and kind of the year that changed your life. When you and I sat down for Lost in Time, you guys have heard Lost in Time, right? So it opens with the scene from Boondock Saints. And in the scene, it's about, there are two kinds of people in life, the talkers or the doers, right? And I remember you and I having this conversation, and you hooked me up with your coach. And a while later, I ended up leaving my crappy job and getting my life together because of that. But so what I want to talk about is, at that point, it seemed like you were also in the talker mentality, and you had to change and become a doer. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about what are the things you started doing in order to become more of a doer, and how did you implement that on Lost in Time?
you first stop talking about it. Very important, and I've always suffered from procrastination. I think I still do, and Lost in Time was very interesting because leading up to coming up with the title itself, and the fear of that sophomore, hey, will Motswako originator had 19 tracks and every song was a banger. You'll never beat that. You know what I mean? And my life has also a bit changed, since No More Hunger. Like my life flipped completely. I haven't been hungry ever since. I ain't been broke since No More Hunger. Real talk, right?
Yeah.
I drive a convertible, I'm nice. So I'm like, damn, but now, I always drew from that hunger, from being broke. If you listen to Motswako Originator, all I'm talking about is I don't want to be broke no more. Right? So back to Queen Ramotshewa, then she passed the torch to her daughter, Tshepiso Ramotshewa.
Yeah.
And then I went back to that same process. I'm like, okay, cool. I'm working on this album. This is what I want to do. I think it's very important, even if you don't find somebody who is in that field, who's a professional, it's very important to have somebody who coaches you through, it's very important you have somebody that can make you be accountable. You understand me? So, and that helped. PH also drilled it in me, right? So we spent a lot of time, working on the record. And yeah, man. But I think everything, I have to be honest and say, after we recorded Tswada, then I kind of knew the kind of record that I wanted to put out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Tswada was interesting because I think a lot of people who would consider themselves real hip hop heads, very big inverted commas, loved that song because of the beat, right? But it was also a little bit unexpected from you. So can you tell us a little bit of the story behind where it came from? Because it came from another song, right?
Yeah. So it came from Noti, had a record called Ma Bare Bare that was on his album. And I did the hook for that. And I just had this foresight that they were not going to push the song. And I remember, him and his label were kind of like going through a bit of a bit of a slump. And I remember being at PH's studio and he had just bought some new equipment. He's like, jump in the studio, just do your thing, right?
Yeah.
And he's like, I got this Wu-Tang beat. I've never played you this beat. Just do your thing. So real talk, like Tswada was a bit of a freestyle. Yes, it was scripted, So I just rap. I dropped that verse that I did on my Bare Bare. I dropped a new verse that I just scripted the other day. And every time I got to the hook, I just started freestyling. I'm a boss player, Tswada. Then I jump into the next verse and he's like, keep going. And I came back to the studio about a week later. It just sounded crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy. And I remember it was dry, but I remember feeling like, yo, this joint scares me because I've become like mad commercial right now. I don't know if they're going to accept this.
Yeah.
At all. Like my songs are playing on radio. I don't think radio will ever play this joint. Ever.
So it scared you a little bit, like you're like...
I remember the first time I think Phonetic dropped it at Club, not Sway, before it became Sway, whatever. When he dropped it, I went outside because I didn't want to catch anybody's reaction. Going, hi man, kill that shit. You know what I mean? I don't know. That song really freaked me out, and I didn't think it would do well. So I remember a time when we had to pick a single. And we were gonna go with Tando Sam because everybody loved Tando Sam. Like you never shot a music video for this. When you gonna drop this? Boom, boom, boom. And Refile was like, let's go with Tswada.
Yeah. And for context, Refile is Refile Ramachase.
So yeah, Refile Ramachase, who was my manager at the time, was like, yo, drop Tswada. You're gonna have to be brave. Let's go with this joint.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't see it. And I remember, imagine being on Ukhozi FM with Dr. Magic
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he was the first guy to jam it. I'm talking like, not even like halfway through the song, this guy starts ridiculing my joint, going, hit it, hit it, hit it. There's a Khuli Chana. And then he drops the joint. I was like, yo, this is bad. We haven't even started the interview.
Yeah.
I'm like, damn, you see, I told you the song is crap. And then he jammed the song again at the end of the interview. The song hit #1 on Ukhozi.
Dope.
Right? That
Yeah.
song hit #1 literally everywhere. And that's unheard of. Because it was just like Kistwana, and it's a boom bap joint in that era. That was unfathomable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so obviously you bring Noti onto the song.
Yeah.
And like you said, it went #1 and it did all these great things, and it even wins Best Collab at the Metros.
Oh, shit.
And you get on stage and you thank everybody but Noti.
So what happened was,
What happened? Yeah, tell us.
so I mean, it was like what actually happened there was, I mean, I still blame the production team for that, right? So there was a lot of miscommunication. By the time I actually even got on stage, I didn't even know
What the category was.
What the category was, right? And I think I had just performed. And I remember that night because I was super nervous and I was just trying to make sure everything runs smooth, and it didn't, right? And I remember one lady kept calling me, "Okay, you need to go backstage. You need to perform." No, send him back. We'll let him know. So it was pretty disorganized.
Yeah.
But that was tough because Mafikeng shat on me for like a full month, and I became villainized. I became the bad guy for a little while, because of that. But it was like an honest mistake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So another artist or artists that you worked with on this particular album was on Hapele Hape Part 1.
Yeah.
So it had Reason and AKA and a whole bunch of other guys. But rumor has it was supposed to have Dukes on it.
Yeah, so Dukes dropped the first verse. I actually never got to hear it
Why?
because he pulled it. He then decided, he doesn't want to do it.
Why?
He wasn't feeling his verse. That was his reason for it.
Okay.
And I was like, this song is my way of kind of, commemorating you. This is my way of showing you, like, the kind of impact that you've had. And and we never really got into it. When Duke says no, when he says it's a rap, it's a rap. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Cassper was supposed to be on the joint as well. Cassper actually showed up.
Yeah.
And there was a little issue with the electricity or some shit like that. And then that didn't happen. And Reason showed up, Zeus, Keenan, Toady had the sickest verse.
Yeah.
And my favorite record of all time.
Yeah. So at this point, like, your life is going amazing, right? Like, you're winning awards left, right, and center. You make history at the Summers, where you're the first rapper to win Best Album, right? Or Album of the Year. So what goes through your mind at that point? Because everybody's seeing you on a high, right? What's happening with you? Are you feeling like this is everything I've been working for?
Yeah, because, it was a long time coming. I felt like, when you feel like you've been slept on for a very long time. I remember one of my best moments was like, I think I was nominated for something, and it was, I think, Motswako Originator, but I think Tear Gas won that year. And Jabba, somebody came up with this idea, like, whoever wins, we all go. We're gonna all go on stage, right? And that was great, because I had gotten used to not winning.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And cool, Motswako Originator had that success, but the sales weren't that great. I didn't scoop any awards. Okay, I scooped the best song, I think, at Hype.
Yeah.
But I wanted to know what the peak feels like. You know what I mean? And I was pretty chuffed with myself.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Summers was an amazing night for me.
Yeah. I remember you telling me about being on this private jet.
Yeah.
Because you had 2 gigs that night. And the logical thing was, let's get on a PJ, right?
Yeah.
But you're sitting in the jet and thinking, is this it? What
Yeah.
led to that?
What led to that was I had a gig in Cape Town, and then I had a birthday party in Durban. Kholo had booked me. You know Kholo, right? And it's like, Kholo's my man. I don't want to disappoint him. I get to the airport and somehow I couldn't board the plane. And I just bought this book by Gayton Mackenzie. And I remember there was a chapter where he was talking about charting, private jets, and he was talking about, using your networks.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yo, let me reach out to homie. I need to figure out how I'm gonna get to Joburg. How I'm gonna get to Durban. I give him a call. I'm like, listen, here's my situation. I'm stuck in Cape Town. I need to get to Durban real quick. Can you do something? So I'll call you back in a little bit. Calls me back. He's like, listen, get on a plane, get to Joburg. There'll be a private jet waiting for you. I call Zaz boy. I'm like, listen, I'm not getting on this private jet by myself. You need to come. And yeah, I remember being on there going, damn, I'm at that level now.
Yeah.
And that's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the next thing that happens is you're back in your car driving to Midrand, Pretoria? Where are you going?
Yeah, Pretoria.
You're going to Pretoria and you get shot.
Yeah.
What is going through your mind when you're in that car?
Geez, man, I always say being shot at is like, there's nothing cool about being shot at.
Yeah.
Like, forget 50 and them. Like,
Yeah.
there's absolutely nothing cool, like, it's the scariest thing ever, right? And yeah, but I remember the moment I keep remembering was like, so after these guys shot at me, so the car rolled down into like a ditch, right?
Mm.
And there was that moment when they're on the highway, right? And I'm screaming, dude. I even had the Khuli Chana snapback on, right? So get Khuli Chana, Khuli Chana. So I'm like, now I'm fighting for my life. It's survival. I'm like, listen, if I can just get out of the car, let me just step out the car so you can see me.
Yeah.
I get out the car. They're like, no, turn around. And I had to walk backwards back onto the highway. That moment for me was just like, my daughter's like 3 months old. Your whole life is flashing.
Yeah.
You get to a place where you go, okay, cool. I think we pretty much have done everything we wanted to do. I think we're good. Because at that moment, you're just waiting for that last bang.
So are you saying you're feeling a sense of calm, like I've done everything?
I have to be honest. I actually got to a place where I was like, okay, cool. This is not how I want to go out,
Yeah.
but like there's no witnesses. You look around, there's really nobody who's gonna say, yo, this is what actually happened. And I was like, okay, cool. But I think I've done pretty good with my life. I guess this is it.
Yeah.
And and then eventually I make it, and then they lay me on the floor. Like, okay, lay on the floor, sharp, pansecha, do, and then they flip me over, and then one guy goes, ish.
Khuli Chana.
Yeah. And then but that moment, literally changed everything.
Yeah.
It was like an interruption. It was like, the best and worst moment, right? Because at the time I'd become like a machine. Like at the time I'm doing like 4 or 5 gigs a night,
Yeah.
a day, right? I've got the stamina to do it. I hardly see my folks, I hardly connect with old friends. I haven't been to a christening,
Yeah.
a funeral, a wedding. Like
Your
go
family
check-
doesn't know you,
No.
basically. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm chasing this bag.
Yeah.
And I remember experiencing a week straight. This is after the shooting. Now I'm all like, plasters and stitches all over my body. I'm at home. My whole family's there. That has to be my best moment. Because like I realized at that moment that I'd become so detached.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did they forgive you for being so detached? Because like if a parent is working all the time or someone you love is not there, but they're doing it for you, you can feel some resentment towards them. Did they feel resentment towards you?
I think they did.
Yeah.
I think they did. I think they just couldn't express it. But it gets to a point where they stop inviting you for stuff.
Yeah, because you're not going to come.
Yeah, you're like, hey,
Yeah.
yeah, and that would hurt a little bit, but I kind of understood why.
Yeah. And obviously, you made the Nine Shots song and video, but did you feel like you got to a place where you forgave the South African police service members for shooting you?
Yeah, I had to forgive first. And I'll have to be honest, like, when something like that happens to you and you're at the peak of your career, you just feel like, yo, I just want this thing to, like, this is not how I want to be known as the guy who got shot at. And, I don't have that thug bone in me to own this moment and be like, yo, I got shot 9 times. I'm not that
That's not
guy.
you.
Yeah, so I'm just like, I remember the following day. So I got checked out of the hospital and I get home. It's on the news. That same day, we had to go meet a crisis manager called Reputation Management Company.
Yeah.
We get to an intersection. My face is splashed all over. Like, I look out the window. This guy's trying to sell me a paper with my face on. And I'm just thinking, damn, this is my life now.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, how long is this gonna go on for? We've got stuff lined up, we've got sponsorships lined up, and everybody's gonna pull out. Following day, news headlines go, I'm being charged for attempted murder. Now I'm in a mess because, the cops have to find a way to spin it. And that was crazy. It was a movie.
Were you angry about that? Because, I mean, it's one thing to be shot at and then for them to then say, you are now being charged with attempted.
Yeah, I was pretty pissed. I was very angry about that. But, I was just, it felt like a nightmare. So I just wanted it to end.
Yeah.
And, I was just like, yo, how do we make this thing stop anyway? And it actually went on for a while. Yeah.
Yeah. It was a very long time. And I know for you, as somebody who is a procrastinator and doesn't write every day, it was a bit tough for you to get back into your creativity mode.
Yeah, I lost momentum.
Yeah.
You're right. And
what was the thing that showed you like, yo, I might not have it anymore? What was the thing that happened?
It was the couple of shows that I did, after the shooting was like, because I got into a whole new groove where I would get to the show and want to leave immediately. So I'd avoid anyone who wants to get into and like, what happened? You know what I'm saying? So yeah, and it just wasn't fun anymore. And you can tell, being a performer, being a writer is all about energy. That's your currency, right?
Yeah.
And I just couldn't give off that great energy anymore, and they weren't giving it back.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think also after 9 shots, I also just started overthinking stuff. And I could tell, like, okay, cool, great record, but something is lost. I'm finding it very hard to channel this into the music. Yeah.
Okay. So then, I guess a few years later, you hook up with this liquor brand.
Yeah.
And that becomes your next offering, your next body of work. And it becomes One Source. So how were you able to go from being unable to channel what had happened to you into making music to making this EP?
That has to be like my biggest blessing, because I really needed something, outside of just beyond music, right? And just finding other ways to channel my creativity. And I remember when I signed this deal, and I remember asking them, yo, but like, I don't know if you've seen the charts lately, it's not popping. You know what I'm saying? So what's this really about? They're like, no, we think you have an amazing musical journey. And first thing first, what we want to do is that we want to document that, and we wanna tell your story.
Yeah.
And it put me into a whole new world of creativity, and it bought me a lot of time. And yes, it paid very well. And so, and it's just what I needed at the time, because I was finding it very hard to vibe with just anyone and everyone, and just, so a lot of traveling in the continent, Kenya, Angola. These guys are plugging me hard. I get to Angola, it's like my billboard over there. And I'm performing to a whole new crowd,
Yeah.
and that was great for me, because I was like, this is what I need. I don't wanna see Precious in the crowd. I don't wanna see anyone who's looking at me like, Maro sharp.
Yeah.
Hush up.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And
Okay.
so that was amazing. And one of the things, that we've been able to do is stretch these brand partnerships. So we did year 1, year 2, and it started taking life. We
Yeah.
went from just touring to, then we put out a signature bottle, and then we put out a
Then
tape.
a festival.
And then we went on to do a festival, know? Yeah.
No, for sure. So in the third section, we're going to talk about everything Khuli's doing now in the upcoming album. So if you have any questions about anything we've discussed so far, please put your hand up and there's a mic that'll come to you. But what I wanted to also talk to you about is the last time Thandiso was here, she was talking about how she wonders if she'll ever get to a point where she's not just a Xhosa woman or just a singer or just a whatever. And because you come from Motswako and you've called yourself the Motswako originator, does it ever feel like, I don't want to just be the Motswako guy. There's so much more I want to do. I don't want this particular label only.
Yeah. I mean, and like what we were talking about earlier on, like there was a time where I felt like we kind of reached our goal, and we wanted to make Setswana fashionable, popular, and cool, right? And and now, we've been living here in Joburg. I'm traveling the world. I'm feeling a bit disconnected from Motswako as a movement, and moving, with that brand partnership, introduced me to, some amazing, brilliant minds, right? And I met guys like a venture capitalist. He makes music. He owns a company. He does this. He's a social entrepreneur. And I was like, geez, man, I didn't know you could do that, right? And so, and that's what I've been working on. Just, really trying to kind of become a bit more multi, in my hustle.
Yeah. And you made it into advertising without AAA. See?
Hala.
Precious?
Question on one source. Traveling the African continent, what was the biggest lesson you've learned from African people?
2 moments that jumped at me was when I was in Ghana and in Zambia. Zambia, I remember when we were doing like a media tour, radio tour. And one of the radio stations was like, nah, we've banned South African music. I was like, damn, wow, I didn't know this was
because of xenophobia.
Yes, because of xenophobia. That's when I realized the seriousness of it and just how hurt they were by it, right? And
so they wouldn't talk to you at that radio station.
And then I think around like 4 p.m., they're like, listen, we think you should come through. Let's actually have a chat about it. Went to this radio station and it became a vibe. And it felt like for me, like I had just squashed the big beef, it was a great moment for me,
Yeah.
And then Ghana also, I learned something about like how every musician that I ran into owned a business over here, did this over here. Their work ethic is just sickening, right? I'm send me the beat, They're like, no, Let's do
Do it
this thing
now.
now.
Yeah.
We record now. We shoot the video now. You know what I'm saying? And their work ethic and their drive is something that really stood out for me.
We have another question.
Over here. Okay, cool. My name is Mpumelelo. What's up?
Ish, me and him go way back. He used to hook me up with the freshest gear. Yo, it's good to see you, homie.
Nice seeing you too.
Yeah, man.
Round about when we used to, interact, you were building a studio in Melville.
Yeah.
By 44 Stanley, and you told me about, getting a lot of assets back because you were at your peak.
Yeah.
One of them was a cover. I think it was YMAC cover of Morafe, if I'm not mistaken. Did you actually get to do all of those things, and what was the importance? Why did you want to do all of those things?
I realized like that, we tell such a beautiful story, from, Jabba, Morafe, but we didn't document any of it. It's like little bits and pieces over here. So I felt like, geez, I need to make this my mission. And yeah, I got some, but it's still a struggle. Like I found some tapes from 2001, and that's gonna be part of a documentary that I'm gonna put out. Like, dude, imagine me in 2001, young Khuli, and prophesizing stuff that I've come to,
That you've
just
achieved.
speaking things into existence.
Yeah.
And yeah, so right now as we speak, we're like converting these tapes to digital, and yeah, I can't wait for people to see that stuff.
That's dope.
Yeah.
So then let's talk about some of the other stuff that you're doing at the moment. You've got the song Eat You Out
Yeah.
featuring Cassper Nyovest.
Yeah.
But before we talk about that, very important question. Dust to dust or composure? Which song? No, I'm not going to do that to you. So,
What was that?
Nothing. Don't worry about it. So, how did Eat You happen with you and Cassper?
Ichu, produced by Brian O'Hayes. Brian O'Hayes is amazing. He's like a nerd. It's like I can't imagine. I wonder how he came up with that joint. But I've always wanted to do something where I could like borrow some lines from like Kwaito hits and flip them and rap them, and yeah, so we worked on that joint. Initially I wanted to get Malum Cool Cat, and that wasn't successful. And then I think I performed the joint at Pop Bottles for the first time. Casper's team heard it. They're like, yo, Cassper would sound nice on this.
Yeah.
And then we did our thing. But I think with me and Cass, it was bigger than just the song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is what I want to talk about.
Yeah, it was deeper. Yeah.
So the perception that I think a lot of us have is that when Cassper and AKA were not getting along, you seemed to not reprimand AKA or detach yourself from him. Is that the reason why he was upset, or is that just a perception that has no basis?
Yeah, so what a lot of people don't know, and I mean, I had that conversation with him, is that when that beef started, I reached out to Cass and said, yo, everybody's showing you love right now, and I don't think you should, let this become a distraction. Don't let him distract you from plan A, right? And just also remember, every time they mention your name, they're always going to mention his name. So just, this could also be like buzz jacking, right?
Yeah.
I'm just saying. And he felt like he was being reprimanded. Like, yo, why is everybody trying to reprimand me? He started it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then I reached out to Keenan and said, come on, leave Lil Bro. Leave Lil Bro. I don't think this is cool. And common denominator was just, yo, this is rap. Yo, come on. Keenan was like, chill, this is just rap.
Yeah.
It's just a competition. It started out healthy and it got nasty. So I think for Cass was was a time when Cass used to send me a lot of music. Yo, check out this song. And at the time, I felt like Cass was a bit too schizophrenic for me. Like he'll drop like a Noah Hala, like a Afro beat song here, and then a Motswako joint. So I couldn't really vibe with him, right? But I knew he could spit. I knew he was dope.
Yeah.
And obviously that felt like, oh, okay, you're not showing me love, but you're showing this guy love,
Yeah.
right? And I totally get that, right? But here's the weird thing: when Cass was just starting to blow up, because I was a bit disconnected from Cass's music.
Mm-hmm.
The guy who put me on Cass's music was Keenan. It was AKA. He was like, "Yo, you need to hear this dude. He's from your hometown." And this is, I think, just before they had a falling out.
Yeah.
And he was working on he was working on Levels just before he started working on Levels, and he was just dropping for beats. And
Yeah.
I think he ran into Cass, and they were trying to work on something. And then I started following Cassper. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So for a while, people thought, what's happening with Morafe? Are they no longer together?
Yeah.
And then recently you guys dropped Outre,
Yeah.
which, I mean, sounds a little like something you recorded a long time ago.
Yeah.
What's the story behind that particular song?
I know we speak about Jabba. The song is also just talking about, us just reconnecting, yeah. And I think procrastination, like we've been talking about recording and dropping an album for so many years. And I remember Toady actually just dropped that song without checking with anybody. Because he
Really?
knew, like, if he did, would probably never drop it. Yeah, but we started to do a lot of shows together. We started to record some music together again. And yeah, man, and that's been fun for me.
But have you felt a kind of weight on your shoulders? Because you speak a lot about how a lot of the solo things you've done was to keep Morafe going, right?
Yeah.
But in that time, KG hasn't dropped a solo. Toady has dropped some stuff, but it hasn't really blown to the levels that yours has. So do you feel a sort of a burden to carry that? Do you feel like you might have done it a bit of a disservice?
Yeah, sometimes. I mean, I think I went through a phase where I had that success guilt, right? But you see, the thing is, Toady and KG is family. Like, I don't think I'll ever meet anyone as selfless as those dudes.
Yeah.
Right? So in everything that I've ever done, whether it be from records, whether it be like, Toady is like my big bro. Like, he's only like a year older than me, but he's always behaved like a big bro.
Yeah.
And before I make a big move, I still call Toady and we chat about it. And so we're in a good space. I think their understanding of my success and my journey is so deep,
Yeah.
But I did go through a time where I felt like the scale has tipped. And it's a very uncomfortable place to be in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So September 6th came and went.
Yeah. Actually.
And we were expecting Planet of the Have-Nots. So I'm not going to ask you for a release date.
Please don't.
But I do want to know about the meaning of this title. It sounds like some cinematic, sounds dope.
With every album, Motswako Originator coined that term, Motswako Originator positioning. Second album was, I think, when I was becoming like a brand. That's where I had that snapback. You didn't see my face. Third album was about Africa's creativity, right? This album is, I've found a new purpose, and that's, I'm going to send the elevator down, to put on the MDBs. I'm becoming a social entrepreneur in the music space. So, and that's been a very interesting place for me, because I'm starting to identify with the have-nots. I'm going back to when I had nothing. I'm going back to when I was broke. I'm trying to be where the people are. You know, I'm not really driven by the glam and the glitz. I'm not driven by the, you know, the bars and what. I'm more driven by anybody trying to make something out of nothing. I'm driven by the raw stuff, you know, and yeah. So Planet of the Have-Nots for me is just a place that I identify with and some people, and I think it'll make more sense when we start to roll it out so you get what I'm doing. But it's just a journey where I'm going to be empowering, you know, a couple of people that I've been eyeing that I think are gonna make a huge change in this world.
Yeah. And are any of the unreleased Thursday songs going to be on that album?
So we'll have 2 tapes. We'll have Planet of the Have-Nots. We'll have an unreleased Thursday tape. Yeah. There's a lot of material. So the toughest thing is just trying to pick the songs and, you know, yeah, but it sounds good.
Okay.
I'm really chuffed. It sounds really
Dope.
good. Yeah.
Dope. We're going to take the last round of questions. I know this gentleman here. If you've asked the question, please can you wait for everybody else to ask? There's a gentleman here in front who we'll come back to Hope. We'll come back. There's a guy over here. And then we'll go over there. So in this section, you can ask about anything because we're now wrapping up. So if you missed asking a question in the first or second section, you can ask now.
My name is Jabu from Velcom. I just want to take you a bit back to the track you made, Twak. There's a line you actually threw there that says, but now here we are. I want to find out, how did you really feel after saying that? Like, was it like really like, yeah, I did this? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it was also, I think I sampled the line from Jabba as well. But, you know, yeah, it's that time, man, where we were like, you know, we've been, like I said, you know, Motswako Originator was about taking one for the team. You know, it was saying like, when we will not be slept on. You know what I mean? Yeah. And that's what inspired the line. Yeah.
Sure, good man.
Wala.
Umnat.
Papi.
Sure. I want to ask, outside of performing, outside of making music, how often do you actually practice the rapping?
Yo, you know, I should practice. I really should, you know. And after that compliment, I should be, and I really appreciate it, man. Thank you, man. That means a lot to me. Yeah, I don't practice enough. Yeah, but you know, I plan to work on it. You know, we working on a special for Motswako Originator and Lost in Time, and I have to. And practicing is fun. It's just something I used to do. Like, you know, I'm a bit of a loner sometimes, so that's all I would do. So I'm going back into that space again. You know what I mean? Yeah. So yeah. But thank you for the compliment.
That's such a flex. Like,
Yo.
I don't practice. I just wake up like this. Tavisa?
Hey, Khuli, how are you, brother?
Hey, scholar.
I'm good, man. So, with you having traveled, where do you think that, or what is it that you think we could be doing better here as our artists? Because right now I'm looking at a number of countries that have lesser resources, but yet their music is blowing up globally and we are not necessarily blowing up. Is it? And those countries don't necessarily have a functioning industry sometimes, but yet their artists are gaining global successes. Yeah. Where do you think that disconnect is with us here at home, as opposed, I mean, having, you know, and I asked that because you had traveled and you had met someone and you spoke about their work ethic, and maybe speak more towards that if you could, please.
I think as South Africans, as musicians, we're spoiled, right? These guys travel. You know, a Nigerian artist will come to South Africa just to shoot a video. So nobody's waiting to get booked. You know what I mean? So that drive, you know, and I think, you know, we're in a good place right now. You have artists like say like a Reese, whose songs are not on radio, but geez, his buzz is undeniable, right? He's got, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. You've the mainstream space, what you guys are doing, Libel with Cass right now, all of that is beautiful. I think there's a little bit of piece of pie for everybody, right? It's big enough for everybody to eat. But I think for us, we just need to start traveling more. Yeah, and stop waiting for the call, for the bookings. We need to have that similar drive to go. And I'm talking about everywhere, you know? And I think that move that Shoma Josie just made right now with John Cena is kind of like what we need to be doing more. We just need to get out of our comfort zone and go spread the music.
For sure.
What are you doing behind the scenes to help yourself get these deals without giving away too much of your secret sauce that other artists can replicate? Because there are artists with hits, but they can't translate those hits into brand deals. What are they not doing?
Yo, wow, man. I attribute my success to Kgaugelo Mapai, Refilo Ramogase. And one of the things that I learned after I signed my management, artist management deal was like these guys were so, pedantic about you gotta be on time. You know what I'm saying? And what they created was a very favorable sort of like image. An artist was very easy to work with, and it had a lot to do with that, honestly. But I have to say also, my curiosity also played a huge role. You know what I mean? Knocking on these doors and just starting these conversations. A lot of them popped off years later, like the one that I'm doing recently with this creative hub, this brand that we will mention. And it is something that I had started, I wanted to do, and I failed at it. I put in a lot of my money and it crashed. But one of the guys that I invited into the space was John Savage and say, yo, come check out the space. You've been in that space, right? Yeah, shout out to Anime. And, I had this warehouse with studios and like a studio, what you call photography, like what do they call it like that? Anyway, right? And I wanted to create like a creative hub, co-working space and boom, boom. But it wasn't well thought out. I just had the money to do it. And John Savage paid me a visit and he wanted to collaborate. And literally after this thing crashed, he gave me a call. He said, yo, we're doing something with a big brand and want you to be a part of it. So I think sometimes it's important to literally invest in yourself, make the moves. It will attract the people you want to attract. Real talk. Yeah.
Oh, I can't wait till I can say, I just had the money to,
it's gone now.
Yo, what up, Khuli?
Yo, what up, homie?
What was the feeling when you first heard that line on Top Shaila, where he said, it's kind of crazy, Khuli used to be the man 2 years ago. What was your feeling when you first heard that line?
Honestly,
it hurt.
Don't give us the PC.
It hurt, man. It cut deep because truth hurts and it kills who. Mamela, I listen to Tuto and skip Top Shaila. Like real talk. Because it's not like I wasn't thinking about that. Right? And to hear somebody say it and to hear him say it, and that was tough. And that was like, okay, is this the moment where you put out a diss record? Or is this the moment where you reflect? Right? This is that moment, right? Because one of my fears was getting to that place. And I was like, oh shit, now it's happening. What are we gonna do now? Yeah. So it hurt. And I remember the person who told me was Refilo. Refilo sent me a text like, yo, your boy is dissing you on the records.
Yeah.
And that's a, what are you gonna do now? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then Kes sent me a text like maybe about an hour later, like, listen, there's a line on this record and I think it's gonna be misunderstood. Boom, boom, boom. And I felt like you could have picked anybody. Why me, bro? Why me? Surely there's somebody else, right? But I'll be honest and say, like, I kind of needed that, But it hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah, it hurt.
So what you're saying is there is a diss track somewhere. We just haven't heard. Okay, I'm gonna take two last questions, and if they can be the ladies, that'll be great.
Hey. Hi. Hi, Khuli.
Hey.
So I just wanted to find out, I was listening to your radio interview on YFM, and you were talking about your current phase now where you really wanted to be hungry, like, and feel hungry again for whatever it is. And you said that you went around performing for free. So how is that from, Khuli Chana is in the building to, oh, now he's just performing for free? Like, did they treat you differently? Do you want to perform for free forever?
Wait, so what's the context? Are you performing for free now?
No. So I think let's.
You're not
because I mean we have a stage.
Let's contextualize. So I mean, I was just saying, like, if you can't do it for free, then I mean, there was a time when, let's go back to a time when the dream was just getting into the booth.
Yeah.
You get into the booth, then the dream is like, if I could just get a gig. We perform for free for a very long time, right? And you get to a place where, now things are kind of like drying up. And like I said, I had to make a decision to kind of go back to where I started. So what I meant was like, it's like sparring for a boxer. I was like, you know what? I'm not going to wait for these bookings. I'm just going to go out and do shows because the more shows I do, the better I get.
Yeah.
Right? I haven't done shows in a while. So let me just build some confidence. That's why I do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got you. Last question.
Yes, last question. Dumelang everyone. Hi, Khuli. My name is Mpo. What do you think is the future of quality?
Yeah.
Authentic South African music, not something that's going to sound like a rip-off of America or a copycat of Nigeria.
I only have one problem. Nah? It's like bubblegum had to die for Kwaito to
emerge.
Yeah. Kwaito had to die for hip hop to become something. And now we're going through this like my piano phase. And I can tell hip hop is feeling a little uncomfortable about this.
Yeah.
True. And I'm like, it doesn't have to be that way. There are countries you go to where it's like 10, 20 genres and they all kind of coexist. And it's like, yo, over here is Kizomba, over here is High Life, over here is this is that vibe. And I'm just like, why, this box is just too small. Is it too small for all of these genres to kind of like, coexist? Or that's the only problem I have. Like, I'm a bit excited about my piano. And I think because like the last time I felt this way was when we had Kwaito, and it was like, yo, this is truly authentic. This is ours, right? And we had that moment with Motswako. We had, so I just have a problem with the structure. But I think we've got a lot of authentic music. We're good. Musically, I think we can compete at the highest level. But I just feel like we're cramped into like a chart and it's just too small. And that's my only issue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to leave it there. Thank you so much for coming to Imbali Live. I think I speak for all of us or most of us here when I say I'm glad the police missed. We appreciate your lyrics. We appreciate your live. And I hope that you can smell the flowers. Yay! So thank you very much for coming, Khuli, and thank you all for making it today. It's very nice to see a packed room. We are here at the J&B Hive every single first Saturday of the month, 2:00. So we'll be back again on the 2nd of November. Thank you to Zola and everybody else on the production team and the sound desk and the crew as well for making sure we always look so fly on youtube.com/Helen Herimbi. I hope that you will shoot us a subscribe on YouTube, and everything you need to know about the next Imbali Live will be on helenherimbi.co.za. Thank you so much for coming through.
Thank you guys. I appreciate it. One love, huh?
The things we do for the champa, the things we do for the ranta, the things we do. What I'ma do is at the bulls, I got a tanta. Make no room for blunder. We ain't getting younger. You staying under. If you